June 2nd, 2026. Well, I'm going to hit political issues primarily in this video, although I may make a few comments about the Iran situation at the close. But on the political situation, we got a lot of interesting things happening. Of course, the outcome in the Texas Senate primary is going to definitely make the race in that state more challenging than it would be otherwise, I think. I had actually, I think, in spite of Trump's last-minute endorsement of Paxton, I think that that was going to happen anyhow, just perhaps not by as large a margin, because I was always kind of wondering, who the third candidate, Hunt's people, were going to go for, because they were also essentially could see them as anti-Cornyn and not pro-Paxton, I guess. So so that's going to be an issue that we have. In some ways, I've come to the viewpoint that Trump might have actually endorsed Paxton just to take the win, rather than thinking he could change the outcome. Perhaps. I mean, if Trump had endorsed Cornyn that late in the game, would it have changed anything? I don't know. But on the other hand, he obviously had a fondness for Paxton because he led that big Texas election challenge in 2020 to the Supreme Court. So I suspect that was a lot behind it too. But at any rate, on the other hand, this Graham Plattner guy in Maine is a real piece of work with his latest revelations of him sending all these sexual messages to all these women, not his wife. So he's, in addition, of course, to his Nazi tattoo, it's even starting apparently to upset some people on MS Now. Even they're beginning to get a little worried about it, which might bode well for Collins. And of course, again, so anyhow, on the political side, I guess we should look at this as I think that, again, I would also urge everybody to back Collins at this point, because it's the least miserable choice we're going to have in Maine. Certainly, any Democrat there, especially this Plattner guy, is not anybody you really want. So we'll have to, and basically you have to. The one way to consider this is I don't think people are too much involved in the personalities and emotions here. This is a game of strategy, like chess. The key thing is to get fairly reliable Republicans, as many as you can get in the body, the Senate or the House, in order to maintain control. With control, you control all the committees. You have all the committee chair people. You determine a lot of things about what even gets to be voted on. And that one person may not be for you on all those issues because they're not on that committee. You see, that's a structural thing. I think that people don't know enough about the way the government works in some ways to understand this. So I'm not fond of some of her positions. No. I'm not fond of the fact she quit voting to support the effort in Iran. No. But it's irrelevant. As long as we have 50-50 and the vice president, So at any rate, so that's one of the things I'd like to point out, that on the other hand, Murkowski in Alaska, if she could be defeated in a primary, I would be all for it, because we should be able to get a good conservative out of Alaska, not somebody like her. And that's a big difference. And as I've also pointed out, don't blame Thune about the filibuster and the Save America Act. Why? Because there are 4 people, regardless of what Thune says, aren't going to vote the way they want. At least. There's probably more than that. There's at least 4. And at this point, I doubt Cornyn's going to support it after what happened. Because he was basically for the filibuster and officially changed his position, before he lost the race. Now, I think he might not, be too happy. I'm not even sure about that guy out there in Louisiana either. That's the problem. These people have feelings too, and they will do things like this. Besides, I don't know that either of those two were for ending the filibuster anyhow. And you already had 4 other people, and some of them don't. Such as McConnell, he's retiring, so he has nothing to worry about, nothing at all. He's going to be gone at the end of the year. And here, for now, he's still there. So that's the kind. And how about Tillis? He's going to be gone. You think he's going to support it? No. I don't know what's wrong with Tillis. He kind of dug his own hole, and now he's whining about it. But at any rate, that's kind of the way I see things. And So we got to move on from here. I've made my first contribution to Paxton as a true support loyal, even though that's not how I voted in the runoff. But okay, that's all well and good. But I mean, to me, these are not. Some of them I may have more of an emotional support for, but some of them to me they're just uh, pieces on the game board. And what will that piece do is what I'm looking at. What will the other piece do? And what's the chance of getting that piece elected versus the other one? And what are the liabilities and advances? That's the way I look at this thing. It's the way you should look at it as a political activist, if you will, and a political operative. Because, I mean, these people don't really love you, by the way. I mean, Bongino always says they hate you. I don't think they hate you. I mean, I don't hate you. They're just indifferent. They have their own agenda, their own career, and that's what they're pursuing to the best of their knowledge. And that's just the way it is. So anyway, if you like these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. And you can also, of course, I post them on Rumble. You can follow them there, whichever you prefer. So anyhow, that's kind of the way I see this thing politically. I think right now we are on the defensive. Let's don't have any raw feelings here. Trump is underwater politically, and the generic ballot is shifting a little bit toward the Democrats in some of the polls. Others, it's not so much. And I don't know, you have to get into how the House would go. The House is almost destined to go against us, I think, because a lot of people out there aren't going to turn out to vote this time, I think. And that's the problem with it. These independent guys are not very reliable. They're independent, and they're not too bright either, personally, because they don't have a firm thought process on whether they want a socialist country or a capitalist country. And that's the fundamental thing you should have. Voting based on the current price of gas, which will probably be something else next year, is like really stupid. But people do that, and they may end up with a lot of higher taxes out of it, and a lot of other policies they probably aren't even thinking about out of it. But nonetheless, so anyhow, I need to have a little political rant once in a while, And so anyway, that's kind of that. And so at any rate, I find this whole celebration of America thing, 250th, interesting. All these country stars, the country star pulling out is really a bit more surprising. Some of the other people are really not in the Trump viewpoint anyhow. I would think you could get some other people that would be that would be willing to perform there. I hear Vanilla Ice is going to be there. Ice Baby. How's that? I wonder if the Department of Ice likes it. Anyway, I don't know. Anyhow, so that's kind of there, and so anyhow, we'll see how it goes. I think Trump needs, of course, to get this situation in Iran somewhat wrapped up, but unfortunately, he really stepped in it with this one. I could have warned him not to do it. I hear that most of his key advisors did also. They didn't listen to him except for Hegseth and the Israelis. And I think the Israelis weren't thinking too clearly on this either, actually, because I don't know that this rebounds well for them, actually. Having the U.S. not come off well in this thing, to me, is not good for Israel either. And not doing anything might have been actually better for them. Take the win you had last year in the war about a year ago and take it and be happy with it. You knocked out their bomb production capability for a lengthy period of time. And if the so-called dust, as I would say, uranium hexafluoride, is deeply buried, my opinion is maybe that's where it ought to be left, buried. But nonetheless, we'll see what Trump's trying to negotiate something that he can spin as a political success. But again, that's in return for a 60-day ceasefire, which will expire right in early August. And what could go wrong with that? Plus, Iran keeps bringing the situation in Lebanon into it, and Hezbollah might vote to stir things up at some point. The thing can easily snap against us. I don't know that. And one thing is you can't really trust the Iranians very much. So that's kind of the situation we're in. I do understand on the positive side, there's anything positive here, is that I've heard that we were able to get several ships. I heard as many as 80 slipped out of there in spite of the Iranian blockade, and that there have been a few ongoing strikes delivered against drone launch facilities and so forth in Iran and anti-aircraft positions during the past several days or so. Uh, so this thing is kind of low intensity. It's not a total ceasefire. It's kind of low intensity right now. But maybe we're actually using it to slip some ships through and get some more oil on the market. So anyhow, on the other on the other hand, France just grabbed a Russian tanker, which is taking oil off our market. I guess I don't know. Maybe they'll get the oil somewhere. I don't know who gets the oil in that case. Um, and so that's kind of the situation in the Russia-Iran war. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Day by day, each side has a slick move that the other one thinks is decisive, and then it goes the other way. I understand now that we're actually using something called that the Iranians have got something. Ukrainians. I apologize. Have something called a Hornet drone, which is basically an AI drone that sort of flies along autonomously and picks out targets that it wants to identify as hostile and just attacks them without a human operator involved. And that's become the latest problem that Russia's been facing, I guess. And on the other hand, Russia's been trying to do some similar kind of attacks without, maybe not without AI, but in northern, basically the area of Ukraine that's basically west of Kyiv on toward the Polish border, and trying to disrupt the logistical flow there, where all the weapons from Europe and the U.S. or whatever come in across the Polish border and then get distributed to eventually taken to the front line and used. And apparently the Russians have been focused on targeting truck launchers for the Ukrainian drones lately. And I'm like, if they've been launching from trucks all along, is that something new, or that just somebody revealed it? I don't know. We'll see how that all goes. But at any rate, so that's kind of the state of affairs right now, and I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble as always, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So all for now.